Balance emotion with logic. Don't get fooled into thinking that your anxiety level should be the factor that helps you make the final decision about risk. Your feelings may be very unreliable. The more emotional you feel, the less logical your thoughts will be. Increase your rational thoughts about the risk you're facing to balance out your emotional reaction. Many people are terrified to fly in airplanes. Often, this fear stems from a lack of control. The pilot is in control, not the passengers, and this lack of control instills fear. Many potential passengers are so afraid they choose to drive great distances to get to a destination instead of flying. But their decision to drive is based solely on emotion, not logic. Logic says that statistically, the odds of dying in a car crash are around 1 in 5,000, while the odds of dying in a plane crash are closer to 1 in 11 million. If you're going to take a risk, especially one that could possibly involve your well-being, wouldn't you want the odds in your favor? However, most people choose the option that will cause them the least amount of anxiety. Pay attention to the thoughts you have about taking the risk and make sure you're basing your decision on facts, not just feelings. Most of the research shows that we are pretty bad at accurately calculating risk. Frighteningly, many of our major life decisions are based on complete irrationality. We incorrectly judge how much control we have over a situation. We're usually more willing to take bigger risks when we think we have more control. Most people feel more comfortable when they're in the driver's seat of a car, for example, but just because you're in the driver's seat doesn't mean you can avoid an accident. We overcompensate when safeguards are in place. We behave more recklessly when we think there are safety nets in place, and ultimately, we increase our risk. People tend to speed more when they wear their seat belts. And insurance companies discovered that increased safety features on cars actually correlated with higher accident rates. We don't recognize the difference between skill and chance. Casinos have discovered that when gamblers play craps, they roll the dice differently depending on what type of number they need to win. When they want to roll a high number, they throw the dice hard. When they want a small number, they roll the dice softly. Even though it's a game of chance, people behave as if it involves some level of skill. We are influenced by our superstitious beliefs. Whether a business leader wears his lucky socks or a person reads his horoscope before leaving the house, superstitions impact our willingness to take risks. On average, 10,000 fewer people fly on Friday the 13th, and black cats are less likely to get adopted from a shelter on that day. Although research shows most people think crossing their fingers increases their luck, in reality, it does nothing to mitigate risk. We become easily deluded when we see a potentially large payoff. Even when the odds are stacked against you, if you really like the potential payoff, like in the lottery for example, you'll likely overestimate your odds of success. We grow comfortable with familiarity. The more often we take a risk, the more we tend to miscalculate how big of a risk we're actually taking. If you take the same risk over and over again, you'll stop perceiving it as risky. If you speed on your way to work every day, you'll greatly underestimate the danger you're putting yourself in. We place a lot of faith in other people's abilities to perceive risk accurately. Emotions can be contagious. If you're in a crowd of people who don't react to the smell of smoke, it's likely you might not sense much danger. In contrast, if other people begin to panic, you're much more likely to react. We can be influenced by the media in how we perceive risk. If you are constantly exposed to news stories about a rare disease, you're more likely to think your chances of contracting the disease are higher. Even if all the news stories are only reporting on isolated incidents. Similarly, stories about natural disasters or tragic events can cause you to feel you are at greater risk of catastrophe than you actually are. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.